What is going on, everyone? It's LFC Transfer Room here, and it's a Transfer Central today, so we're going to talk about more midfielders. It's always more midfielders at the moment. It's just midfield. I mean, Damon didn't see this coming. He was so shocked by it. He never mentioned it once, not in pre-season or anything. Did you, Dave?
I still don't think we're going to now.
But what we're going to do is we're going to go through some of the main rumours, see whether we think that there's some merit to them, see if we think that there's a good chance of happening, and then see how they fit in the current system and stuff like that. If you are new here, please make sure that you leave a like and subscribe to the video. We are joined by two new people today, in Charlie and Ben. Charlie, first time on. Thanks for joining us. How are you doing, sir?
Yeah, very well. Thank you. Thanks for the invite. Glad to be here.
And Ben, yourself? I mean, lovely backdrop you've got there.
Yeah. Put me to shame, I think.
Oh, it's not a backdrop. I'm at the stadium right now. But yeah, thanks for having me on.
Is that your job? Your annual visit?
Yeah.
And Damon, back on stream after hosting most of the Twitter Spaces for us so far. How did it feel to get your face back on camera?
I've missed it, mate. I've been doing podcasts as well, Anna. So it's been a bit of a weird one, not being seeing you and seeing these guys. So yeah, I'm glad to be back. But let's talk some transfers if we do have any.
Gary, great to have you in there. I mean, the first one, it's building momentum, and it's seeming like it's going to happen, isn't it? This Mason Mount one seems like it's all coming together. Like he's going to be the next James Milner. I keep referring to him in our group chat as the next James Milner. Charlie, what do you think about this Mason Mount? He's not playing for Chelsea. So is he good enough for us?
I think if you look at the player a couple of years ago, that Champions League winning side, the time when they were actually doing a little bit, okay in terms of the league, Mason Mount was kind of prime to that reasoning. So I think he's a really, really good player. I think there's definitely a good player within him. It's just that he needs to find his way under a Klopp system, under the Klopp kind of man management style. I think it's perfect. I think he's a really, really good player to consider. I think the fee is going to be important for the club because the budget is what it is. We all know there's talk about what the budget is going to be like. So if we're stretching it so much for Mount, considering he's got 1 year left, that's part of the conversation, part of that negotiation deal that we need kind of remember when we move for that particular player.
Yeah, and Ben, what sort of position do you think Mason Mount is? He's a bit like James Milner. He plays on the wing, he plays in the central, he probably can play right back. What sort of position do you see Mason Mount playing primarily?
You asked me?
Yep. Ben,
I guess we'd put him in the midfield. Maybe we could slide him on the wing, but I wouldn't really want him if he's too expensive. He is only 24 years old, but so I mean, what we signed Salah, he was like 25, and so he could be awesome. I don't know because he hasn't been playing much for Chelsea, but we know he's talented, and yeah, I'd see him playing like attacking center mid or on the wing probably.
I think for me, if you don't mind me kind of mentioning also, I think is that there's something around that Oxlade-Chamberlain position where we brought him in to kind of be that similar player, to work in different positions, kind of drive from midfield to be able to score those goals. So I think instead of maybe thinking of Milner and that competitive kind of nature to what James Milner brings to the side, if we think about what Oxlade was like with us in the Champions League run, he was kind of dynamic, scoring goals, those memorable goals against Man City, kind of reiterate what I'm thinking as to what type of player Mount could be for Liverpool. So if we think about that, that's probably where he's going to be fitting into the side.
Charlie makes a really good point, Damo, and I think one of the weaknesses we've got at the moment is there's no one in midfield that drives forward with the ball. No one transitions. It's either the front, the back. It's either Matip, Rollo, Trent, no midfield. Is that one of the main reasons we've been so bad this year? It's just no one to drive forward with the ball.
Well, you saw the difference when Bajcetic came in as well. When Bajcetic came in, he took that sort of roll up, didn't he? I mean, he took the CDM roll up first, but then throughout a bit further on, he took up that sort of more like a box-to-box midfielder. And the way he took it on the half turn and things like that, we've not had that all season. And our midfield looked okay until he got injured again. And it just shows you right there that we'll be missing that, because when you have someone like Bajcetic coming in and just showing you what you're missing, when it's gone again, it's so clear to see in it. So I can understand the Mount thing, but he's not my number one choice over everyone. But I can understand it, and if we can get him at a decent price, like Charlie said earlier, then you can't really say no, can you?
Yeah. Jen, great to see you as well. Jen's one of our regulars. It's great to see you in here. It's been a long time for all of us. All right, so everyone's saying for the price. So let's go around. What price would make you a bit disappointed we signed Mount, and what price would make you happy that we've signed Mount? And what price do you think it will? So I'm giving you 3 options here. So Charlie, I'll start with you. What's a good price for Mount? That do you know what? Yes. And what's a bad price?
I think reasonable amount, 30 million, considering he's got 1 year left. That'd be a really good deal, perhaps, I would think. Anything north of 50 million is going to be too much.
Ben, what about for you?
I think if we got him for 40 million, I think that was a pretty good deal. I think if we paid like 70 million, I'd be like, man, that was not good. But I don't see them letting him go for less than 60 million just because they're a big club and that's just how they do business, I feel like. So
they're desperate. That's the thing. They are desperate to offload players. You know, even what was it? Thiago Silva said in his post-match interview the other day how the dressing room is just not big enough. Physically, it's not big enough to house all the players. So they need to get rid of players because of the FFP. Those are the type of things that we need to kind of use in our negotiation tactics.
Damo, I think Kev's smoking something here. Mount will be 70 million with add-ons, with a year left. And when you look at the amount of 70 million pound players that have been successful, probably count them on one hand.
Yeah.
Is he really going to be 70 million? We've got Charlie saying between 40 and 50. What do you think?
They could try it, couldn't they? They could try it, Chelsea, but it's not going to work, is it? Long way 1 year left, and I'm agreeing with the lads. I think about 40 million, 50 million is probably about what I think he will be. If Mac Edwards here, I think we can get him for a packet of Monster Munch, but we ain't got Mac Edwards anymore, so...
No.
And this is the thing, Chelsea need a striker. I know they've got Nkunku coming in, and yes, he's an unbelievable player, but I've got a sneaking suspicion they're trying to put funds together to try and steal Harry Kane. That's where I think he'll end up, because Harry Kane wants to be the main man, don't want to stay at Tottenham. Chelsea would make sense, but that's just... I have nothing behind that apart from that makes sense to me. Another player that we've been linked with really heavily and seems to be picking up momentum is Ryan Gravenberch. Now, reports today that he said, I don't want to go back to Ten Hag. I don't want to work with Ten Hag again because United were interested in him and Liverpool is his preference. But there's also conflicting reports that Bayern don't want to sell him. Damo, what do you think? Do you think that he looks like the profile of player that we'd be interested in, but we've not seen much of him this year? Development's kind of stalled, a bit like Mason Mount as well.
I wanted him before he went to Bayern, to be honest. I think he was definitely up there. You were talking earlier about Mount being a progressor and someone that can take the ball in the half turn and things, and that's exactly what Gravenberch is a bit more box to box than Mount, but it's what we're missing in the middle, isn't it? I think anyone looks good at the moment, doesn't it? And it's so hard to even look at other midfielders because our midfield is that bad. Anything, one little half turn from a player could be someone from Championship, and you think, oh, it'd fit our midfield. So we're just missing that, just any sort of spark in midfield. And I think Gravenberch is that sort of player. And when people say, well, it hasn't worked out at Bayern Munich, but Mo Salah didn't work out at Chelsea. Kevin De Bruyne didn't work out at Chelsea. He's still, what is it,
Many
20 years
more
old?
work out at
Still?
Chelsea.
Yeah,
Mane's not
Chelsea.
working out at Bayern.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. So it doesn't mean that he can't work elsewhere, and we're all better than Jurgen Klopp to get the best out of him.
And this is the thing, isn't it, Charlie? Liverpool's midfield don't function like a lot of other midfields. There's a lot of water carrying if you're going to be a Liverpool midfielder, especially with the plethora of riches we've got up front and in the wings. You know, I think it was someone put in the chat, you know, we need another left winger. It might have been yourself after listing about 9 that we've got. So a midfielder that has to be dynamic. They have to be physical. They need to be able to progress through the thirds quite well. Is that what you see in Ryan Gravenberch?
I'm yet to be convinced, in my personal opinion. The reason why I say that is he's played in a Dutch league, done really well under the manager there, gone to Bayern and hasn't worked out. You know, that first big move hasn't worked for him. Now, there may be kind of underlying reasons as to why it hasn't worked within, Bayern's kind of setup. But would there be that room? Now, I guess there's always possibilities around him working within a Klopp system, because if Klopp wants him, he'll work with him, he'll improve him. There's always that kind of the real main ingredients to improve that player. It's just it depends on the fee, it depends on the appetite of the player. It's a big if for me with Gravenberch at the moment.
He played really well against us in the Champions League. Really well.
Yeah.
So it's not just him being in the Dutch league either. The Champions League performance has been brilliant in recent years.
But Ben, it's another Dutch player, another person that speaks English already, because pretty much anyone that's Dutch speaks English. I'm just assuming that. I actually don't know, but I'm pretty sure he speaks English. So then you've got Gakpo, you've got Van Dijk, you've got Gravenberch. You're building a little contingency, a bit like what we've got with Brazilians, of people that can sort of culture and come together. There's a lot of benefits for Ryan in this type of move, feeling more comfortable, feeling more familiar, because he's probably more fluent in English than he is German. Do you think it could work out for him?
I think so, yeah. And that's exactly what I like about him. I really haven't seen him play. I hear he's really good, but I like that he's Dutch, because he could fit in with Virgil and Cody Gakpo. And I think that matters a lot, like the cultural background of players. And, we get another Dutch player, and then we also have kind of this South American thing going on with Diaz and Darwin and, I'm blanking. But if we got Caicedo and Mac Allister as well, I think it is important. Like, I think people like to think of transfers as like FIFA career mode or whatever, but I think it's a lot more than that. It's like players are moving their life to a new place. They want to feel comfortable, and that's going to affect how they play on the field. So I think he'd come in and be pretty awesome. But again, I really haven't seen him play, but I'd feel good about it if we got him.
No, Jen, as always, great to see you back. Thank you very much for the donations to the channel. We appreciate all the support that you give us on a regular basis. If you are new here, please make sure that you like and subscribe to the channel. This is a fan channel for fans, so everything that gets put into the channel goes back into the channel. This is just us wanting to talk about Liverpool and wanting to talk about it with you as well. So if you are new here, please like and subscribe to the channel. Now, the other main name, Damon, that's being linked and that's been regularly linked at the moment is Alexis Mac Allister. Now, he's one I'm not 100% sure about, because I see him more functioning as that sort of 10-type attacking midfielder. And so far, with the attacking midfielders we brought in, or Harvey Elliott can't really seem to get a position nailed down. Carvalho, rumours he's going to be leaving because he just can't seem to fit into our system and positions. Curtis Jones is another one where he's more naturally a 10, and he seems to be, in the last couple of games, finding something. So why would we go after a 10-type player, or is he more than that, Mac Allister?
See, I don't know what Klopp's thinking in terms of going forward. I mean, the Trent thing and him moving sort of like centrally, to me, allows for maybe a 10. maybe just because they've got that defensive cover there, 3 centre backs and Trent and say Fabinho there inside. But for me, Mac Allister would be a very, very good signing. But because I want Caicedo so much that I don't want Mac Allister, just because you've no chance getting 2 players off the same team, no chance. Especially the prices that Brighton are last. I mean, unless to do some sort of deal where we can spread it out over monthly costs, then I can't see someone like Mac Allister or Caicedo ever joining us, just because of the prices that Brighton are asking. I know for a fact this club ain't paying shit. This club ain't paying shit for those sort of prices. So yeah, but Mac Allister number 10. It's so tricky, innit? Because we both think that Carvalho and Elliott deserve a chance at number 10, but we just don't play that number, do we? We just don't play that number in a 4-3-3. But it'd be interesting to see, like I said, it'd be interesting to see what he does with Trent and see what our formation is going forward. And we'll see that next 8 games, I think. I think we'll see a little bit of what we see next season in the next 8 games.
And this is a great point here, Charlie. You know, Mac Allister can do 6, 8, 10. He's a very intelligent footballer. We've seen him play different roles for Argentina and stuff like that. But if I was Mac Allister and I'm thinking about what position am I best at, where am I going to get the best career, it's not necessarily a formation Liverpool play. You know, do you think Mac Allister works, or would you go, do you know what, park him, go for Caicedo?
So yeah, it's really interesting because if I think about a player that's done really, really well against us in the last kind of couple of seasons, Mac Allister does stand out for me. I think he's played really, really well because we have struggled against Brighton. They've got some really good results at Anfield. I know Trossard gets kind of deplored because he did score the goals, but if you look at the play that Mac Allister brought in each of those games, he ran that midfield. So me personally, we could find a position for him, but I agree with Damo. I would prefer the other player. Whether we can sweeten the deal with a Carvalho loan out to them, because I think I mentioned in the group about him moving to Brighton. They play really good football, kind of the attractive football that I would like to see us play. He would learn a lot more, and they get a player on the back of a really good deal. So yeah, I think he's a really good player. The price is going to be really, really tough to try to negotiate with Brighton because they've got the upper hand. If we want that player, he's a World Cup winner. He's got all the attributes that would make a player that would walk into most teams in Europe, not just the Premier League. It's in their court as to defeat, and they know that we're desperate for midfielders. So that's the kind of the sticking point, isn't it?
Yeah, and Charlie makes a really good point here. There's no leverage at the moment with if we were to pick up Brighton, the only leverage we can put is more money on the table, and Liverpool are not going to put more money on the table, are they, Ben?
Yeah, I don't think so. I'd rather take like Gravenberch and Mount for I feel like we could get them for the same price as Mac Allister. So I'd rather have 2 good signings than just him.
And if you're talking 70 million for Mac Allister, if Mount's 60, God knows what Mac Allister is. Let's just ignore that for a second. How far would you get? You're starting to get towards, well, you might as well just amortize it and sign Jude. If we can't afford Jude, we very much probably can't afford Mac Allister, can we, Damon?
No. We can't afford anyone, mate. We can't afford anyone. No. You know what? Players like Mac Allister and Caicedo, I can't even get excited for those players because we've really put ourselves into a situation where we go to this summer, we're just going to get priced out of so many players. Because as soon as we say that's it, we're pulling out of Jude because we can't afford him, we don't value him at that price. That says to me, Brighton will up the prices of Caicedo and Mac Allister. Chelsea will up the price of Mount. Bayern will up the price of Gravenberch, and we're left with no one. It's as easy as that at the moment with clubs and selling clubs, because all they have to do is just add a 10, 20 million onto their players, and Liverpool will pull out. They'll pull out because they just don't want to pay it. So we're in such a
and it's Brighton.
Yeah.
Yeah, if Brighton get into Europe. Sorry, Dave. I was going to say, if Brighton get into Europe, that's another thing, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah. I mean, the only way we can go now is maybe go for look at relegated clubs. That's the only way I think we can go this summer. Because I'm hoping Leicester go down to someone like Madison comes available for a decent price, if I'm honest.
Well, someone's put in the chat, and James Ward-Prowse. I mean, I'm a big fan of James Ward-Prowse, so I don't really think that's good for me. But someone like when we took Shaqiri from Stoke when they went down, because he had a buyout on it, it was like, yep, we'll have him. Why not? But if you're going to talk about Barella, you need to talk about Barella if you're going to talk about Sanchez and if you're going to talk about Mount, because if they're saying Barella's available for 50 million, Ben, isn't Barella better than more pedigree than Mac Allister? More expect. I know Mac Allister's won the World Cup, but he's still developing as a player, whereas Barella's done it a lot. Who would you rather get, Mac Allister or Barella, Ben?
Man, I don't know. I guess Mac Allister. If they were both reasonably priced and had to choose, I think I'd take Mac Allister. Just because Barella's in the Italian league, he's Italian. We don't have many Italian players. I don't know how he'd fit in, with the squad. I don't know if he'd do well in the Premier League. So I think I'd go with Mac Allister also because he's a little more he's a bit more versatile. I don't know how attacking Barella is. So I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but Barella is more defensive, like a defensive midfielder.
He does get forward quite a lot, He has a lot of shots.
He scored a cracking goal. He scored a really good goal, didn't he?
Barella much.
He scores a few goals, if I'm honest, for a midfielder.
Yeah, he's really, really dynamic. Really good.
Well, JD, this isn't what we're saying. We're not saying that Klopp can't. We're not saying any of these players would turn us down. What we're saying is FSG won't give us the money to do everything that needs to be done. Therefore, we need to get creative. That's what we're saying. And yeah, so Barella seems to be really popular in the chat. There's loads of people that are big fans of Barella. Charlie, for you, Barella, Mac Allister, or Mount? If all are 50 to 70 million, and it's FSG, so you might get one. Which one's going to be the problem solve? And they'll give you a Milner extension at the end of the year.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, we'll do that. Okay, so thinking about the goal that he scored last night, if you haven't seen that yet, watch it. That kind of proves the quality of the player. Who doesn't love an Italian, right? Who doesn't love an Italian in their team? So I know maybe the last one didn't work out in Aquilani.
Liverpool never had a good Italian.
No,
Barini is a legend.
Even the center.
Yeah.
Donny. Wasn't he Italian?
Donny was Brazilian, wasn't he? I think.
Was Donny Brazilian? Which keeper was it?
Descendant Italian. It was descendant. No, it was
Descendant was the left back. He got a cracking goal in the Champions League against Real Madrid.
And the one against Man United as well. Very loved keeper.
But if you're going to put me on the spot, I'd go Mac Allister.
Yeah,
because he's just proven in the Premier League. That's the kind of the winning thing for me.
What about you, Damo? I'll even give you Gravenberch. Barella.
Barella's special, mate. Barella's special. Honestly, I just think Barella. I think he just gives more as a whole midfielder than the other lot. I think Mac Allister, there's only really Mac Allister that's quite close to him where he can play 6, 8, 10. But I think Mount can't really. Mount's more, he's just attacking minded. Klopp needs versatile players, right? And Mount's not versatile at all. He can play on the wing, but not really. He's only put there because they've got nowhere else to put him sometimes. So for me, Barella, because it just gives that chance. If we need a number 8, we've got a number 8 there. If we need number 10, then he can play number 10 as well. It's just such a versatile player. And again, like Charlie said, that goal last night just proves everything that you need. We were talking about progression from midfield. He progressed. He took a dribble on 1-2, quick 1-2, and the finish was unbelievable. So, and we haven't seen that from midfielder in years. I don't know. We're just basing apart midfield options on, like we're so starved of midfielders. In a single moment, like Barella
it's also
last
the
night
style
was so
we play as
amazing.
well.
Yeah, but for me,
I think
Barella.
it's the style we play. Our midfielders are not the stars of the show in our system. They never have been.
Mm.
But Ben, you're gonna round us out. So we've got a Mac Allister, we've got a Barella. Are you going to go Gravenberch and Mount, or are you going to side with one of these two and be the casting vote for which one we only get with our £50 million pot that FSG gives us in the summer?
I think I'd rather have Gravenbach out of everyone, just because the price, and then we'd have extra funds to go after whoever.
We could extend Oxlade-Chamberlain's contract then instead of Milner's. A little bit younger.
Man, I don't know about
that. I will tell you now.
Do not give me nightmares.
If Ox renews, I'm doing a stream immediately the second the news comes out with Damon, just to watch him cry on camera.
I really like Ox as a person. I think it's one of the goals that we scored. The Bobby goal, equaliser against Arsenal. If you ever get a chance to have a look at the reaction from Oxlade, it's not great. It's not a great look. I know he's on the bench, but everyone around him was kind of celebrating, but Oxlade he wasn't happy.
I think he was just an unfortunate injury in the Champions League when he was getting his momentum going. Absolutely. And it just fell apart from there. Okay, so let's move on from the midfielders and all the midfielders that we're linked with. Unsurprisingly, there's loads. Let's have a quick stop, and I'm going to ask chat with this as well. And if you are new here, please like and subscribe to the channel. Let's talk about the Champions League for a second, because people are saying, "Oh, would we get this without Champions League? Would we get that without Champions League?" I knew you'd press that one, Damon, taking control just because Owen said something nice about you. Do you think we're going to qualify? We're pretty much going to have to go back to back all the way to the end. And Ben, I'm going to start with you. In the Champions League, do you think we're actually going to get there? Do you think Newcastle will fall apart? United fall apart? Our running looks quite easy, but we lost against lower teams. I think we're top of the top 6 table again.
Yeah, I mean, I hope we do. This season has been really volatile, We go and we smash Man United. What was that, 7-0? Didn't we beat Bournemouth like 10-0 or 9-0? We just destroyed Swansea, and then we go and we lose to Nottingham. We lose to Leeds at home. So, honestly, I don't know. Maybe if we can push Alisson forward and he can get us a few headers, we'll make it again.
And Charlie, in a season where we smash Bournemouth 9-0 and then lose to them 1-0 after an amazing performance against, I can't remember who we played with. That was after the Man U one, wasn't it? We've had so many false dawns. Could this be the continuation? An easier running than most. A lot of the teams above us are playing each other. Could we sneak in? Would you be surprised if we snuck in?
Oh yeah, I'd be really, really surprised. Considering the gap between ourselves and the top 4, plus all the other teams in between. I would always take it game by game. We need to take it game by game, and I think Klopp would say that let's not get carried away. The last game and a half, the second half against Arsenal, and then the previous game against Leeds, it would appear that we found a formation, found a position for Trent that kind of gives us the ability to work in a more functional way. The running does kind of favour us, but it really just depends on us finding form, getting results, and then other teams kind of dropping points, because I think we are a little bit too far back to close that gap. It may run close, but it just depends on other teams.
See, I have faith. I actually think we're going to put this run together, because they seem to have solved the Trent problem. He seems to be getting space and he seems to be able to dictate play. And I think I think Gakpo's been key to it, Damon. I think the way that he's actually started to play like Firmino, and that's the biggest compliment. It just seems the ball seems to stick to him. He goes past someone, and then chaos ensues. Do you think we'll do it, or do you think it's a little too late, but it's good for momentum running into next year?
I'd like to think we'd do it. You know, I looking at the 8 fixtures left yesterday actually, and I'm thinking, you know what, we should be winning all of those, right? But as you said earlier, we're the top of the top 6, but we've been losing to the bottom teams. We've been drawing to the bottom teams. So you can't look at that 8 fixtures and think, you know, we're going to win those, because that's not this season. It really does remind me of pre-Klopp, and we used to beat the likes of Man United. We used to beat Arsenal and Chelsea and Tottenham in games, and we always fucked up against small sides every single time. I mean, look at the Champions League back in 2007. We beat Real Madrid 4-0, you know, a class Real Madrid side, and then we lose to someone crap in the league the game after, and it's so frustrating. And I'm on your wavelength right now, James, where I think we can do it. I don't know if I'm just trying to convince myself that I think we can do it, and I just think it's hope more than anything. But I just think that last game and a half, I think it's sort of giving me some sort of hope. But it's the hope that kills you, isn't it? It really is the hope that kills. Because I know if we feel like we can against Arsenal, or we did do that against Leeds, then we're going to be ruthless. We're going to steamroll teams. But we just not enough this season.
I was going to say United have had to bring back Maguire. There's always hope when Maguire's in the United squad, right?
Getting our midfield.
Yeah. Well, I think I mentioned that Wakehorse coming into the midfield and just being a big lump.
Harry Maguire, you know, and I'm nearly 40, and I think I could still make it when I watch that guy run, because even I'm quicker than him. I've not trained for a long time. But we're going to go back to the transfers. And one of the transfers that has been mentioned is a little bit of a centre-back and a little bit of a right wing. Timber from Ajax has been mentioned. Gvardiol's been mentioned. You know, we're looking at these defenders who can play that sort of right central midfielder, back 3, give Trent that option. Does Trent solve one of our midfield problems, Charlie?
So I think it's really interesting that I think it's more on the left-hand side of the defence that what we should be looking at. The reason being, Konate plays on the right-hand side of that. If we say a back 3, so if we say Virgil is in the middle, Konate on the right, and then you have that left side. I know Robbo's absolute legend, and we should never ever doubt the man's capabilities. But if we wanted to have that thought process of having a left-sided centre-back on the side of Virgil, that would then allow Trent to work in that kind of number 6 double pivot role. So I think maybe we should look at that left-hand side. So the Croat lad, and then there's a player in Germany that's up for free in Dicker, I think his name is.
The Frankfurt lad, yeah.
Gvardiol's left-footed as well, isn't he? So he's a left centre-back, massive Liverpool fan. But Damon,
money.
It's going to be expensive. It's not going to be cheap. So maybe the Frankfurt guy?
As John Henry said, these players are expensive. These baseball players, these soccer players are expensive. Yeah, they're expensive, John. I'm glad you finally noticed, mate. I don't know why you took over a soccer team and a baseball team if you didn't know that in the first place. Anyway, yeah, when you said Trent, is it the new midfielder? I don't want to give FSG that excuse. Do not even go there. Do you remember when we were looking for a striker and we started testing Oxlade-Chamberlain as the number 9? And then all of a sudden we didn't need a striker. I'm not having that anymore. FSG, you've got to put your hands in your pockets now. It's as simple as that. This is just going to be a new role for Trent. And he's going to play right back, but he's going to be drifting into sides of that, and Fabinho drifting back into like a free defence. And it depends who it's against as well. We can't play Trent in midfield if we're against Man City, if we're against Bayern Munich. It's not going to work. It worked the other night because we're against Leeds. It doesn't. He can do it against teams like that because he's going to get the space and things like that. He's not going to get the space against Man City, and those gaps at the back. Konate can't do it by himself for that long against world-class players. It doesn't work. So I agree with Charlie that we need a Virgil van Dijk, I won't say replacement, but like a takeover at some point in the future. So we need someone to come and learn from him for the left-hand side. But I think Timber's a very, very good shout, if I'm honest, because this is versatile to play right back as well. I think he played across the defence. And if needs be, can go right back if Trent does go forward.
He also plays in midfield as a defensive midfielder. He's got a good engine on him. A bit like Genie, that strong, powerful and stuff like that. What do you think about Trent in midfield, Ben? Do you think we're starting to develop? Are we building this team around Trent and where we can put him in space? Or are we just trying to solve a problem for now?
I like the way he plays from right back. I think he's kind of like, it's different than other teams. He can whip the ball and he can move into midfield and play kind of like a midfielder sometimes. I actually really like how he does that. So I don't really see why we would just put him in the midfield when he can just go ahead and rotate in there and kind of like mess up teams that way. So yeah, I think I don't like the idea of moving him to a center midfield position, even though you have players like Kimmich who've done that successfully. I kind of like him at the right back as an attacking right back. I think he's a real threat there. So,
and it's interesting, isn't it? Ben makes a really good point, Damon. When Trent's not really got assists much this year, and every time he's got in that classic Trent position on the right-hand side of the box, and he's whipped a ball in, or he's nutmegged Zinchenko. If you've not seen that, it's spectacular. The delivery's perfect, and you've got Darwin Nunes coming in from the left at 1,000 miles an hour, and the boy can jump. It just seems like the perfect combination, doesn't it? Moving him central kind of takes him away from where he gets the majority of his success.
I think if you look at Kevin De Bruyne now, he's sort of similar. He plays that similar role right at RCM. But he sort of plays like Trent area, doesn't he? But if you're going to move Trent into there, like you said, he's going to have to go left as well sometimes, and we don't want him on the left side of the pitch, unless it's like a switch up. Like Jurgen Klopp every now and then switches him and Robbo around on things just to confuse teams. But you don't want him there all game. You as a right back, what he did against Leeds, right, is exactly what we need him to do. A right back, and he's got that vision in front of him to just ghost into that area. Everything Trent plays with everything in front of him. He cannot play with 360. He's not got the 360. He might have, but he don't really see his defenders behind him half the time. His attackers behind him. So he needs to come from right back to play the way he does, and that puts a lot of pressure on Konate to cover. It really does, and whoever is CDM, and this is why we need the legs. If we get the legs in midfield, the likes of like Caicedo or Ugarte, someone like that, then that Trent role can really work. And it needs to come from right back, by the way. We shouldn't put him in midfield straight up. But it needs to come from right back and just cover.
Yeah, completely agree. And you've got people. Trent and Nunes might be similar to the Gerrard Torres link up.
Big shout, that Gerrard Torres.
Yeah, I used to love that one. That used to be done at 1,000 miles an hour. Jay saying Trent started out in midfield and then started playing at put him at right back. And it's something that they do to young players, isn't it, to blood them in and get them comfortable. But one midfielder that we were heavily linked with in January, and it's dying off. It's not a priority for us anymore. It's not something that we're looking at. Is Matheus Nunes. Now, Ben, Matheus Nunes looked like he was going to be the big January signing. He was going to solve all our problems. He was everything that we ever needed. And now suddenly we're no longer interested in him. Do Liverpool fans do we get a bit too short-termism and think, oh, this player, we've seen him run in a straight line. He must be able to solve our midfield problems. And then when you start to look at the data, you go, well, actually, maybe he's not as good as we thought he was. We just wanted something new and shiny.
Yeah, I think that might have been it. I think we just wanted a midfielder so bad. We just kind of latched onto him because, he's at Wolves, and I don't think he's done much for them. So,
Yeah. What do you like? So I saw him against us, Charlie, and he came off the bench against us, and it looked good. Like he looked up for it. He looked like he was pressing. He was running. He was at full speed. And I think Wolves won the match because it was a bottom side, so obviously we lost.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't seem to be. It didn't look like a Klopp midfielder to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's a strange one with the Nunes kind of conversation, because the way that I understood it, reading Twitter and reading kind of respected journalists, was the deal was there. A deal was made with Wolves because the clause was in the contract, and it was a respectable fee, and would have been a decent deal for the player, for the club, for both clubs in that respect. But then Wolves took away that clause. That's the way I understood. That's what I read just a few weeks ago. Once that was then made public, essentially the club, via the journalist, said, we're going to look at other players because the price bracket has changed. Have we got a special guest?
It's your best mate, Damo. You've got John here.
I invite you onto our podcast next week if you are free. Tuesday 7 o'clock. We'll send you the link.
John, Damo, he's here right now. You've got John Henry.
He's in the chat. I need a good couple of hours with this lad. I need prepping. I've got a week of prepping to do.
He needs a number from you. He needs a budget so that he can start working with his investors and stuff like that. What number are you giving him, Damo?
What number we actually need this year, James? Honestly, what number we actually need this year? And I'm being serious, at least 300 million. And that's the number I had in my head. That's what we actually need.
That's the number I had in my head.
That's the number we need.
It's gone now.
Yeah.
You've made him cry.
Oh, he's had 300 million, he's gone. That's it. He won't see him again. You what? You won't see him again.
Well, we all know we're not getting 300. I don't think we're getting 300. I think we'll do well. Let's get 150 out of it.
About 150. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the investment talk's gone really, really quiet, hasn't it? So I know I personally got kind of hooked in with Twitter and what was happening around January time. We thought there was a big deal. We're going to sell the club. Whoever's going to come in, there you go, fantastic. Jobs are good, but that died. And then there was a talk, that journalist release about it's going to be an investment deal rather than a full sale. And that's just gone quiet. Whether that means there's things happening in the background, we don't know. But that investment deal is kind of going to lead in how we're going to perform in the summer. If nothing happens, then that means the budget is the budget. It's not going to be great. However, with that investment, who knows?
Right. So I've had a rant about this before, but I'm going to have a little bit of the rant about the investment again. Investment means nothing for us as a club. Because if, for example, I own a business and I sell 20% of that business for £1 billion, that £1 billion comes to me, not the club. And it's my money, and it goes to my shareholders, and it comes to the people that I'm invested in my investment firm, and they get their dollar payday. It doesn't go into the club. It's not about the club. It's about a return on investment. And what they will probably do with that billion, if they can get $1 billion, is it goes straight to Vegas where they're building that basketball team, because they need to get some big contracts for that. It's a real.
It even said it the other day, didn't it, James? There was a report the other day that even if we do get an investment, it would have no effect on the transfer budget at all.
Oh, we'll get the
It won't do.
Yeah, because what would you like if you've got suddenly, let's say, someone owns that I run a business, I sell 50% of it to someone, and they sell it for £1 billion. Great, yeah, I'm rich. I'm not going to put that £1 billion in. I'm going to I'll put 250 million in, but you're going to have to put 250 million in as well, because we're equal investors. And if someone who's just spent £1 billion wants to get a return on their investment before they put even more money in, unless there's a clause in there to say X amount is made available.
Why would you? I mean, if I'm an investor, why would I invest in a club for 25% to see that the value of that club go down? So the way to do that is to
But-
maintain the quality of the squad.
Yeah.
Even if it was
I
the transfer, even if it was the transfers, why would they want to come in and just pay for your transfers? That's like someone paying for your fuel and saying, "I'll pay for your fuel, but I can't get a lift."
And then there's a
Yeah.
car noise in the background. All planned. But unlike United, we can be really quiet about our investment because it's private. We don't actually have to publicize everything.
Yeah.
The fact that Goldman Sachs, the fact that another investment capitalist banks involved means that we shouldn't be hearing a noise. We shouldn't hear a thing. United have to be very public in it because there's public shares involved, and there may be buyout of shares, and there may be sale of shares and stuff, enforced sale of shares if it's fully purchased. So they have to be really transparent about it. For me, my personal opinion on it is I think if we do partial, we risk the club really struggling because you would need everyone to put an amount of money in if you want to put a cash injection into the business. So all these different investors would have to agree. So Redbird, FSG, unless Redbird are part of FSG Group, new investor would all say, okay, we're all going to put up, if it's 100 million, let's say, you own 70%, you put 70 in, this. And you'd have to do that. And it gets really complicated because you're trying to mold a load of people together and it gets really messy. So it's full sale or nothing for me. I think partial just means no more big transfer fees because financing gets really complicated.
What big
Ben,
transfer?
what do you think? Darwin was a big transfer fee.
In the end,
Yeah,
It was
I
a
was
big
surprised.
I'm not saying it was a huge transfer fee. Big. Not huge. Not ginormous. What do you think, Ben? Do you think we're going to sell? You're there, you're in the stadium. Do you think
I have
partial
no
sale,
idea.
full sale?
I don't know if they're just testing the waters to see, what they could get for selling. I really have no idea. I haven't heard much about, maybe I just haven't been keeping up, but I haven't heard much about the sale recently. I feel like it was like a few months ago I was hearing a lot about the sale, and then recently there hasn't been much about it.
It's gone very quiet on all fronts. But I tell you what, we're gonna finish off on something a little bit more fun, a little less depressing than Liverpool sale. Okay, we're getting a new midfield.
that's the girth.
Sounds
of
like a
John
drone.
That's the girth of John Henry.
Oh, actually, I think
Christmas
it's
Carol. It's like a
apology.
Christmas Carol.
Apology, it's the window. I need to close the window. But if you can bear with it, we'll keep it till the end.
We're gonna see what happens. We're gonna go. Let's go to Christmas future, right? We're gonna see what happens in the future if Liverpool don't sale.
Like in those films where they kill the president and all the drones come after him and stuff like that. It sounds like they're all
It's very windy here.
You're starting front three for next season. Or not for next season, for the remainder of the games. So you've got Diaz, you've got Jota, you've got Darwin, you've got Gakpo, you've got Salah. And please put it in the comments. Who is your front three to run us out for the rest of this season? Your preferred front three. So please put it in the comments. And if you are new here, please like and subscribe to the channel. Damon, you're the old hand here. Not saying you're old because obviously you're younger than me, but you're the old hand here, so you can start. Give the other two a little bit more time to think. Your preferred front three to see us on this top four sprint.
I need to see madness. I need to see Diaz, Nunes, and Salah. I need to see madness. So I think those three, Nunes, Diaz, and Salah, the speed of those three, right? I don't care who we're against. We'll score 3 or 4 a game with those three if they play well. 3 or 4 a game.
Jen's gone with Gakpo, Nunes, and Salah. I think that'll be mine, Jen, because I think Gakpo's playing such an important role. But Diaz is so good. He's so energetic. Charlie, what about you? What's your front?
Gakpo's been brilliant, but I've got to be honest.
My front three: Salah, Nunes, Diaz. but there's so many options. That's just the thing. There's
Who
so
played
many
central in
options.
that?
So many,
Is it Nunes central? For you
Nunes.
now?
Yeah, Nunes. But Gakpo is brilliant. He's been phenomenal since he's come to the club.
Jay's gone with Jota, Gakpo, and Salah. Obviously, that's been the one for the last couple of games, and it's been absolute fire. Jota seems to be finding his way back into space again. Ben, what about you? What's your front three to run us out for the rest of the season?
Well, if I had to choose just one, I guess I'd love to see Diaz, Gakpo, and Salah together.
Oh, that's a good one. And then Nunes just comes on and causes chaos towards the end.
Captain Chaos.
Yeah, get Jota and Nunes on.
We're spoiled that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if anyone's got any others, you might want to bring Doak in on the right hand side. Harvey Elliott could play in the front three. I think he's probably more that type of. Well, Oxlade-Chamberlain, he played on the left wing, didn't he?
He celebrated his new contract.
James Milner, Mason Mount next season, right wing. No point in destroying Jota's confidence when he's just found it. And I think this is one of the things that excites me most about Liverpool next season. I know we need to do quite a bit of surgery and stuff like that on the midfield, but when you look at that attack, if we can get that firing, you've got Salah. Probably Doak would be my backup right winger. I think he deserves an opportunity, and we're going to need an English player as we move into next year, especially if we lose Keita and Milner. So we're going to need an English development player. I think Doak would be a sensible one. And then you've got Nunes and Gakpo, and then you've got Diaz and Jota, or maybe, you can switch the left and right. It's anything you want. I can't think of a better squad of attack that we've had in the Premier League era. And as long as we can sort of midfield out to support it, it should be crazy amount of goals for me.
I agree.
I don't know if anyone can.
I agree. We're spoiled. Go for it, Damo. Go for it.
I'm trying to think back to the 90s. We didn't really have the squad depth in terms of, we had like Collymore, Fowler, and Rush at one point, but that's about it. I think it was not really behind. Yeah.
That was end rush, wasn't it? These are all coming into peak powers players. It's such a powerful attack, and you've still got the best right back and the best left back in the league. Verge needs to find his form again, and I think Konate's starting to find his form again. Alisson's the best. It literally comes down to a midfield. And I know, I think Jen put 3. You're talking 300 million. I think we need 3 midfielders, and I would bring someone like Tyler Morton in for squad player. I would keep Curtis Jones for squad player because we need English players as per the rules and regs. But I think 3 midfielders could have us really firing on all cylinders. And that could be done in 150 mil. Yes, you could just spend that on Bellingham, but it could be done in 150 mil. I'm trying to be positive.
I think the thing with the Bellingham situation, the way I see it, perhaps what could happen is Bellingham stays at Dortmund for that extra season, allowing him to kind of refocus where his next move is, but also actually work out where Liverpool are. If we're back in a position where we're challenging, winning, trophies, that move to Liverpool is going to be a lot easier because he's given himself that year. He's given us the funds to be able to build the team back in those crucial areas, and he can then come into a winning team.
Yeah,
that's me and my team.
It's between Bellingham and Mbappe 2023, isn't it, Damo? That's the choice, isn't it?
Do not do this to me, mate. I'm sick of writing about Bellingham. I'm sick of writing about a lot of things at the moment. But
I think we'll sign Bellingham. It'll just be Joe. Not Jude.
We're gonna get contract extension on Milner and Henderson for another 5 years.
Well, and we'll probably do that on the next Transfer Central. We'll talk about which players we think are actually going to get extensions, which ones we think are going to walk away. There's very little noise on the contracts front at this moment in time, so it does look like a big contingent of our high earners are going to be leaving, and that gives us a lot of options. This has been LFC Transfer Room. This has been Transfer Central. Thank you very much for Damo, Charlie, and Ben. Ben and Charlie are brand new to the channel. This is their first stream with us, so make sure that you look at their @s and you follow them on Twitter. They're going to be joining us on a more regular basis. We've got some good things coming up. We are about to do some really interesting and new shows. We've got one coming out next Wednesday, which is called the LFC Transfer Room Show, which is going to be a little bit different to normal. So make sure that you stick with us. We will be back soon. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel, and we will catch you on the next one. Take care, everybody.